What's up, everybody? Christian Baxter here with yours truly. And today I want to talk about the singularity when the East understands the West, or vice versa. Let's get started. Hi, this is Christian Baxter, and you're listening to yours truly, a place we go to think out loud. Well, today I kind of wanted to. I've been tossing this idea around for a few weeks, ever since Jai West on his YouTube channel released that amazing piece of art content, video content, where everything is east, west, left, right, black, white. Um, and the first thing that I thought of was like, this is pointing to a singularity of when the East understands the West. And, I think he's an American actor here, but maybe he's from Japan, and he obviously is bilingual. But, I don't know. Are we building the Tower of Babel? I'm not smart enough to understand these things, but what I do know is that he's pointing to his video is titled "The Dragon of Possibility," and he's kind of pointing to this understanding that the thing underneath us is really the same. We're understanding the same thing, um, and he kind of hits on some of the players in this little corner of the internet, notably Jordan Peterson in here, and I think you could tag on like symbolic meaning very heavily into this. So before we get any further, let's take a look at some of his a little bit of that video. We're going to look at two different sections of it. So.
I was thinking, heights and women my two fears. The brain has two hemispheres. Two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, but only one mouth. Kotodama, magic words.
Two eyes, two ears, two nostrils, but only one mouth. And there's a picture there about understanding, about the word, about understanding words and language, and what does it mean when we understand one another, when we can understand one another, and is it the man-made tower, or is it a beautiful city? So I don't know, that struck me when I listened to this back several times in recent days, that we have these two things, but we only have one mouth, and it's like we're kind of stuck, like we have two, like we can't understand what the other is saying. But he's pointing to an understanding. He's pointing to the year of the dragon. I want to hit now a later part in this video where he is he kind of hits on some of the big heavy hitters here. So let's take a look at this.
Fascinated me. Dragon West was sin, Asian dragon, good fortune. Haji to Tsumi, East and West exist. Dojini, Nihon no Ryujin, masculine and feminine. Vertu et Tokyo, this Stonayoni, complex like human beings. This winged reptile is versatile. From the West, J. Tokyo ni Iki, awakening in Japan. An actor's life for me, Gemini. Ha. Where are you? Where are you going? 今よりいい場所、今より悪い場所。自分で自分の道、地図のように物語は導き。感情の星のナビ、emotional guidance system, maps a feeling, maps a meaning. 冗談じゃない、冗談ピタソン。order, 秩序の中は平穏。chaos, 混沌、like そのシオン。幸せと悲しみ、一瞬で変わる。混乱、コンフュージョン、不安定。愛する人の裏切りはカオス。自分が自分裏切ればカオス。大震災、原発。
I could keep listening to that jam. Yeah, so he mentions understanding Tokyo Revolution, maps of meeting Jordan Peterson, the year of the dragon, and I don't know what all the implications of that are, but there seems to just be some. I don't. That's what struck me was just that there is this understanding and these conversations that are taking place, that these walls are and these borders are dissolving before our eyes, and in this very space of places like YouTube and social media, where if we come at it with the seeking of understanding, that there's just a lot of really hopeful things that we can look to. And I've always kind of found myself in this. He says, and again, that this is the dragon of possibility. I'm in between worlds, and I actually I'm a fourth Korean. My dad was born in South Korea and was adopted to the United States back in the early '60s, and just living in between these worlds, that's been a part of me, even ethnically. And so that's one point here. And this kind of led me into thinking about the release of the Apple Vision Pro and the implications of what it means to communicate between, say, the East and the West. And again, I'm not talking about the Middle East. That's a Tom Holland conversation, but kind of we'll get into other topics around like the even the Eastern Orthodox Church as well. But so here's a point on the new Apple Vision Pro.
Little things too, like continuity, so I can copy some text on my Mac or my iPhone and then hit paste and it shows up in the Vision Pro. But there's two really impressive ones to me for very different specific reasons. FaceTime and Mac Virtual Display. See, FaceTime is the most only Apple could ship this thing I've seen in a long time. From the personas scanned in from the cameras on the front of the headset to the positional tracking and responsiveness of the spatial audio, it's all so well thought out that, once everyone on the call gets past the initial what is this? The shock, the moment they first see the virtual version of you, once they first get past that, then it actually kind of slowly gets easier and it feels way more like a normal conversation than a normal FaceTime. And it trades the downside of not being able to hold up objects to your camera for a button that can switch to a real-time first-person view where you can use both hands instead of one. Does the audio from these...
So that's very fascinating to me. The idea of not only, he even said it there, it's the most Apple thing. And if you think about the history of Apple and the revolutionary technologies that it has ushered in the last 15 years, obviously starting with the iPhone, there were smartphones, there were even, Blackberries, there were even some touch screens, but they took it to a whole nother level. And Mark Zuckerberg's been in the chase for the AR revolution, but I don't think he has the hardware background, being a software first company to execute this vision the way that Apple can with their integration between software and hardware. And he actually goes in to say that right in the previous section of that, it's like the most Apple thing is the integration between your phone and this medium. And then he says the other most Apple thing is FaceTime. And it's going to take digital conversation to a whole nother level. And, it's kind of scary and a little creepy to think about that. And even for myself, I kind of wonder if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I also think that he's about to talk about the audio, but I had this thought about, we're getting to a point to where you could be sitting in a room, you could be seeing somebody in a 3D avatar, having a conversation with them. They could be speaking another language, and through artificial general intelligence with a very low latency, you could be hearing them in your own language, and the barrier for communication understanding begins to dissolve even further. And so East versus West, the singularity, you watch Jai's video and you're like, wow, I'm even understanding him through these symbols and through his medium, and just by the fact that he mentions Jordan Peterson and we're talking about meaning, but then to remove the language barrier, the understanding will, and he even seems to be trying to bridge this world in the year of the dragon. And I don't know about all the symbolism with this, but you know, there's something to whatever the year of the dragon eating its tail, and the east meets west, the low meets high, and um, that kind of points me to a lot of the conversations in this part of the internet, in this little corner of the internet, is I see between the high and the low church. I see with even Orthodoxy being from the east, and then Catholicism from the west, and they're actually kind of, and then what comes downstream from from Catholicism is then Protestantism, and from that is lower evangelicalism, and I kind of see that the lower you get, it's almost like it comes full circle to the east, where the dragon is eating his tail. And I want to illustrate this through my dear friends there in the old Hillsong United world. So this is a 20-year-old video from Hillsong United, and I want to contrast this or compare this to some Orthodox points. This video changed my life 20 years ago. The drama, tension building. You two were perfected. United. Let's take it up a level. Tension. One more time. Tension building, message, release. And you're met with this. So yeah, this was not a lot has changed in 20 years with the modern worship from this moment here. This was kind of U2 worship perfected through Hillsong United, and there are variations of what this might sound or look like now, but ultimately it's all very much still here with some added pop elements. But you see that, you experience that transcendence, that the unification, the united spirit in that place, the power of the percussion and the rhythm and the soaring melodies. And I think a lot of people, when they experience what's called contemporary or modern worship, they actually aren't experiencing this. And then the big proponents that have experienced this aren't really talking about this. This is something different, but this is still labeled the same thing. This image of a church praise band is not the same thing that Hillsong United and Passion and Bethel do. They may use their music, but this is a community. This is a local body of the church. And I see family here. I see friendship here. I see, community. And that's not what I see when you see, the Dave Grohl-ish leader for Hillsong, Joel Houston. It's not quite the same thing. You're not experiencing the same thing. So when somebody is saying, I've gone to a church and the contemporary worship is just, it's just not this, they're usually talking about this, this kind of community. And I'm not talking about quality. I think there's a good and true quality to what this represents, but I would venture to say that the Hillsong experience of that transcendence and that united spirit, um, actually is a lot closer to, say, this. I'm gonna blow this up a little bit. You just look at that picture. The drama, the colors, dare I say the smoke. Everyone gets on about smoke machines in the rock and roll worship, but dang, there's some smoke there. The sensorial experience, the majesty, the height, the drama, the colors. Oh man, that is almost as, I don't want to use appealing or attention grabbing, or maybe more so as the rock and roll worship. But to me, those two things are actually a lot more similar than this. This is something else. So I don't really know, but I feel like when evangelicalism is coming to and seeking, there's a whole swath of people that are going to stay in this rock worship transcendent unified experience, that's not sacramental. Because there is elements of the transcendence there within that. But if you're trying to find sacred, you're not going to find it in this picture in a certain way either. So then where do we go? We go here. So I think some of that's happening. I think that's some of this. I think that is the dragon eating the tail. And I don't know, maybe I'm just completely full of it, but that's the unification of the East and the West, and the transcendence, or the singularity of that happening. So we have the Apple Vision, where culturally people can come together, and then there's this bridge between the transcendent and otherworldliness found between the Eastern Orthodox drama and the mega church spectacle. So, and I mean, we can use these words and we do some different ways, but it's more of a vibe than I'm able to put words to necessarily. The second thing, or another thing I want to look at, is just that symbolism is winning. Symbolism is winning the culture, and this is, Jonathan Peugeot, and I'll blow this up, but even for our very understandings in science, and this is something that I think that people feel smart because they can understand that this is what an atom looks like, but this is not what an atom looks like. This is a symbol of what an atom looks like. We have, and of course you can talk about electron microscopes and these kinds of things, but this is our symbolic understanding of a deeper reality. We don't really know what's going on down there, and we can't even, I don't think, explain the movement of electrons very well. But we can put them in these pictures that help us understand something. And this is my whole idea of what worship is. Worship is a compression of the transcendent. Because even in the majesty of a Hillsong rock opera or a divine historical liturgy is still trying to compress this transcendent idea that we're trying to understand and worship and pay attention to and live around. But symbols are winning in this world, and they're bridging, like the symbolism of Jai's music video speaks on a deeper level of a deeper understanding than simply, just propositional facts about, Eastern Japanese culture and Western civilization. So these things are breaking down, and reductionism's breaking down, because we can't, we have to compress those ideas upward for understanding. And where do we find the meaning, or in the symbols? And I released, Paul highlighted this, my conversation with Strange Theology, where I have a conversation with him about Thomas Kincaid, and it pushed some people over to my channel, and they started talking to me, and there's a guy on there that he was disappointed that Kincaid was the art that gave me a transcendent kind of understanding and an experience. I can't help it. That's what happened. And I think someone like what Jonathan Peugeot is doing, creating a medieval mindset, is of symbolic understanding, and then liturgical art is it's going to help us understand one another more well, cross culturally even. So I think that we're coming to this understanding, and what I mean is we're seeing more and more ways that people are standing on the same things. And we see that in Jai's video. When a type of Christian pluralism leads and yields a release of fear and xenophobia of other denominations, we come to an understanding of other cultures. We come to an understanding that we may not change church, we may not become Eastern in our culture, but we can learn to love and respect these differences in a deeper way, and not in the way that we're being told and forced to at certain parts of culture. But that propositions aren't the only reason people go to a church. In fact, it's usually not even the case. That maybe it's family, maybe it's friends, maybe it's the mode of worship, maybe it's a preacher, maybe all these actually supersede the doctrine. I'm not saying that we don't need it and that those things don't exist for a reason, but when you can look over and have respect for the ideas and the practice and learn from it and maybe adopt some of it of your own, because I just had a conversation with Kale Zeldin, and we talked about how Protestant Catholicism has become in the United States. You can't help but respect certain parts of it, and whether that was a good or bad thing is, could be discussed. But I'm in a situation where I'm helping evangelicals or Baptists understand the beautiful things within those cultures, but they are engaging with me as someone that understands them and understands where they're coming from. So I kind of move in this conversation that I think that everything we're talking about is that the digital is it's devouring everything in a certain way. So in the late 90s, digital devoured music with the MP3, and then we had Napster and LimeWire, and then Netflix digitally devoured Blockbuster and the analog tape, even the digital tape, the DVD, and then so that was music, video, and now podcasts in the last 10 years have eaten up time, devoured time in a way where we used to have to be pardon me, locked into scheduled broadcasting to catch the information that we wanted, and now we can put that information and capture that information in the times that we want to. It's killing the news media and cable media that way. And then you have the digital is now eating away actual walls. Before that, it's eating away at distance, where I can have a conversation with somebody that lives hours away from me, or take that to the next level when you're having an Apple AR Vision Pro conversation with somebody that's continents away from you, but it's like they're in the room with you. The digital is devouring distance. And then this thing that I've seen in this space and in YouTube in recent years is that the digital is now devouring the walls, say the walls of the church or the walls of the library. You don't physically have to go enter those places to have conversations or learn about a different denomination or a different religion, or you don't have to go talk to the local priest or pastor to kind of get a flavor. That you can just take that stuff up digitally. And I think that in this last year, a Redeemed Zoomers channel has blown up, 325,000 subs, and he does these quick explanations of different parts of Christianity, and it's like literally tearing down the walls in many ways, just like how the conversations in this little corner of the internet between other Judaism and Christianity and Orthodox and evangelical, like those walls that used to exist, like, oh, they're not there anymore. You might still be standing where you're at, but you're having these conversations. So this is a little bit of redeem zoomer here.
There's so many different forms of Christianity, so how do we tell them apart, aside from like stereotypes that may or may not be true? To put it simply, they're all called Christian because they all worship Christ. They all agree who Jesus Christ is. He's truly human and truly God. He was born of the Virgin Mary. He died for our sins. He rose from the dead. He ascended into heaven and will return to judge the living and the dead. These are the essentials of Christianity, which are contained in the Nicene Creed, the early church document that all these different churches use. So they're similar in that they're all Christian, but they still have a lot of differences. Let's start with the Baptists.
Let's start with the Baptist. So even you see what he did there is he immediately started with the unifying principle, the unifying telos and ontology of Christianity. And that's smart. So, which I think he's a brilliant kid. Even though he's not a kid, he's in his 20s. But yeah, those are some of my thoughts today. And East-West, singularity in the world of understanding and how these different technologies are changing that and how I'm experiencing it. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you have, please dialogue about me with this in the comments. Send me an email. Maybe we can even set up to have a conversation together about something. So looking forward to connecting with you guys more and more. All right, we'll talk later. I guess that's it. Hi, this is Christian Baxter, and you're listening to Yours Truly, a place we go to think out loud.